All right, everybody, I'm going to be showing you how to do verbal thought tracking. This session type is focused on reporting on the content of your automatic internal monologue as it occurs. So, in cognitive behavioral therapy, the concept of automatic thought is essentially what we're looking for, but we're looking for very specific qualities of that thought, and that is the exact spoken words that we experience in our own minds. So we're not focused on visual imagery. We're literally acting as listeners to the inner speech we experience. And the goal is to type out those individual utterances of our internal monologue. So we can see we have this little input field right here and then some faces. So the way this works is you will simply, with eyes open or closed, preferably closed if that is possible, but doesn't really matter. And we're just going to listen to see what, if any, inner dialogue begins to arise. So I just heard in my own head, this is weird. So I'll type that in. And then we can see we have three buttons here. And this is to note what is referred to as a valence. And valence is actually much more simple than you might think. It is simply for verbal thought tracking. Valence is referring to when the thought arises, what is the feeling we experience in our bodies with that thought? So when this thought, this is weird, arose, to be quite honest, I didn't really feel much of anything. It just was like some words that popped up, and there wasn't a very strong emotional tone one way or the other. So this would be referred to as a neutrally valenced thought because I'm not experiencing pleasantness with the thought, and I'm not experiencing negative feeling with the thought. So I'll note this little face right here and then click submit. And then we simply just wait for the next thought to occur. So I just had a thought pop up, which was, why am I doing this? So I can say for sure that I actually felt a sort of like negative feeling in my body, maybe a little bit of shame, maybe a little bit of embarrassment. And because of that, I'll note it as negatively valenced, and then I'll click submit again. The goal of this exercise is to really very clearly write out the words perceived. And this can mean that you might experience a thought such as, why am I? And then it just completely cuts off. In that case, we would simply type in, why am I? And then observe, the valence we perceived as it arose. And then we would hit submit again. We can also see that there are some autocomplete options here, and this is really just to make it easier to quickly provide input. It's not necessarily a race to see how quickly you can type things in, but as you become more proficient at doing this, you'll probably be able to notice more and more content as you develop proficiency in this session type. Other things to note, maybe you experience visual imagery occur or visual thought, and I want to be very clear that we're not interested in visual thought. This is very much an exercise to explore inner monologue as speech and not other types of thought. And this is set to 5 minutes, but we can also extend the time if we so choose. And yeah, other than that, you're just going to continue to observe as content arises. As a thought arises, why am I doing this? Once again, somewhat negatively valenced. And we can see that that thought now is also available as autocomplete. So once it's submitted once, it's added and it can be quickly accessed. So if I just typed in why am I, we'll see that why am I doing this is now available as an autocomplete option. And that is verbal thought tracking.